Life had always been a struggle. Every bill, every unexpected expense, a constant, uphill battle. Then she arrived, my sister, a vision of effortless success. Her words, casual and cutting, pierced through years of quiet hardship, $500,000, a trust fund I knew nothing about, a legacy hidden, a secret unearthed, my world just fractured, a quiet hum of unspoken history. Some truths lie dormant for decades, waiting for the perfect, shattering moment to surface. The knock on the door was unexpected. Elara, her hands still damp from washing dishes, hesitated before opening it. Standing there, framed by the fading afternoon light, was Serena, her younger sister, looking every bit the successful lawyer she was. They hadn't seen each other in years, not since their mother's funeral, a silent agreement of distance settling between them after a strained childhood. Serena's inside without an invitation. The small, cluttered apartment felt even smaller with Serena's polished presence. "Elara," Serena began, her voice smooth. "It's been a while. How have you been? Enjoying your $500,000 trust fund?" Elara stared, the dish rag slipping from her numb fingers. The words hung in the air, foreign and utterly baffling. "What trust fund?" Elara finally managed, her voice a disbelieving whisper. Serena leaned against the doorframe, a picture of composure against Elara's disarray. "Oh, come on, Elara. Don't tell me you really don't know." Her tone was light, almost dismissive, as if discussing a forgotten grocery list. "Mother set it up for you years ago. A substantial sum, meant for your future." Elara felt a tremor of anger mix with her confusion. Their mother had always been secretive, but $500,000? This was beyond anything Elara could have imagined. Why would she hide something like that from me? Elara demanded, her voice rising. Why would she let me struggle for all these years, barely making rent when there was... This? Serena sighed, a theatrical gesture. Mother had her reasons, Elara, always did. Maybe she thought you'd squander it, or maybe she just wanted to protect you from its implications. The word implications hung heavy, hinting at something darker, something more complex than simple maternal concern. After Serena left, promising to send the details, Elara was left in a whirlwind of disbelief and a surging need for answers. She tore through old photo albums, dusty boxes in her closet, and the small collection of mementos their mother had left behind. Her mother had never been one for sentimentality, making Elara's search feel even more futile. Hours later, tucked away in the very bottom of a box filled with old tax documents and utility bills, Elara's fingers brushed against a small, ornate wooden box she'd never seen before. Inside, nestled on a bed of yellowed silk, was a single folded letter. The handwriting was unmistakably their mother's, elegant but with a slight tremor. The date on it was from over 20 years ago. As Elara unfolded the brittle paper, it began, "My dearest Elara, if you are reading this, the time has come. There is something vital you must understand about our family and the true source of our struggles." Elara's breath hitched as she continued to read, the words on the page blurring slightly through a sudden film over her. The letter spoke of an old family debt, a significant sum lost generations ago, which their mother had been secretly working to repay her entire life. It wasn't just about financial struggle. It was about honor, a pact made by their ancestors, and a burden that had quietly shaped their family's destiny. The $500,000 trust fund wasn't a gift, but a settlement, a reparations payment from the family responsible for the original debt, secured by their mother after decades of silent pursuit. But the letter hinted that the original family had only paid because their mother held a powerful secret, a leverage point that was now gone. The last line sent a chill down Elara's spine. "And now, Elara, with this payment, you must be prepared. They will come for what they believe is theirs, and you are the only one left to protect it." Elara read the last line again. "They will come for what they believe is theirs, and you are the only one left to protect it." The words resonated with a cold dread that settled deep in her bones. The $500,000 trust fund now felt less like a gift and more like a heavy burden, a beacon drawing unseen dangers. She tried calling Serena, hoping for clarification, but her calls went straight to voicemail. Serena's earlier nonchalance now seemed like a deliberate omission, a calculated detachment. Elara clutched the letter, its brittle paper a tangible link to a past she never knew existed, and a future she suddenly feared. The quiet of her apartment felt oppressive, each tick of the old wall clock amplifying the weight of her mother's confession. She needed answers, and Serena was the only immediate key, yet she remained elusive. The weight of this unexpected legacy pressed down on her, demanding action. With Serena unreachable, Elara knew she had to dig deeper on her own. Her mother had worked at the local library for decades before her retirement, a quiet, unassuming woman who spent her days among books. It was a long shot, but Elara hoped to find some trace, some forgotten connection there. The library was mostly empty, the familiar smell of old paper and dust filling her lungs. She remembered her mother mentioning a specific section, local history archives, where she sometimes volunteered after hours. Elara spent hours sifting through microfiche and bound local newspapers, her fingers growing numb from the cold, dry air. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, only that she hoped to find something, anything, that could shed light on the obscure family debt her mother had written about. This felt like a desperate chase, a search for ghosts in the silence of the past. Days later, a terse text from Serena finally arrived. "Meet me at the Gilded Spoon tomorrow, 10 a.m., don't be late." The upscale cafe felt utterly alien to Elara, a stark contrast to her own world. Serena was already there, sipping an espresso, "So, you finally decided to grace me with your presence," Elara stated, bypassing pleasantries. What exactly did Mother mean by, "they will come for what they believe is theirs"? Serena's polished demeanor faltered slightly. She set down her cup, Mother was always dramatic, Elara. It's just an old family story, a settlement. There's nothing to worry about. Elara leaned forward, her voice low but firm. It's not just a story, Serena. It's $500,000 that I never knew about, and a warning that feels very real. What aren't you telling me? The tension between them was palpable, a fragile truce about to shatter. Serena's vague answers only fueled Elara's resolve. She remembered a faded newspaper clipping in her mother's box, an article from 20 years ago about a property dispute involving the Caldwell estate, and a mention of a historic family claim. It was a tiny detail Elara had initially dismissed, but now it sparked a new lead. She found the address listed for the estate, an imposing, dilapidated mansion on the edge of town, long abandoned. The ornate iron gates were rusted shut, overgrown with vines. Elara squeezed through a gap, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. The air inside the grounds was heavy, silent, as if holding its breath. She cautiously approached the crumbling manor, its boarded-up windows like vacant. As she peered through a broken pane, she saw a symbol etched into the fireplace mantel. An intertwined serpent and lion, identical to a small pendant her mother always wore. A pendant Elara had always assumed was just a decorative piece. Elara, still shaken by the symbol, pushed further into the decaying mansion. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light piercing the boarded-up windows, illuminating the ghosts of a grand past. The air was thick with the scent of decay and damp earth. She moved carefully through the vast, empty rooms, her footsteps echoing ominously. In what appeared to be an old study, a grand desk stood covered in a sheet, and Elara noticed a loose floorboard nearby. Prying it open with a discarded piece of metal, she found a collection of old, leather-bound ledgers and a tarnished silver locket. The ledgers, though brittle, detailed land transactions and loan agreements, some bearing the Caldwell name and, surprisingly, an unfamiliar but distinct family name that appeared repeatedly alongside it. The locket contained a faded miniature portrait of a stern-looking man from a bygone era. Elara couldn't wait. She sent a furious text to Serena, demanding an immediate meeting. They met in a quiet corner of a busy city park, away from prying. Elara shoved the locket and a brittle page from one of the ledgers into Serena's hands. "This isn't just a story, Serena," Elara seethed, her voice low and dangerous. "This is real. Who are the Ashtons? Their name is all over these ledgers, connected to the Caldwells in a massive land dispute." Serena's composure finally cracked. The Ashtons. I told you Mother was dramatic," she stammered, trying to regain her usual poise. "It's an old feud. They believe our ancestors swindled them out of land." Elara scoffed. "Swindled them? Or did they swindle us? Mother's letter said they owed us." The tension between them was a live wire, sparking with years of unspoken resentment and newfound secrets. What exactly did Mother tell you about this feud? Elara pressed, leaning closer. Serena, visibly rattled, reluctantly admitted that their mother had indeed spoken of the Ashtons, but always vaguely, stressing that the Caldwell Trust Fund was a final resolution. She said they were powerful and to leave the past buried, Serena confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Elara wasn't convinced. She remembered her mother mentioning an old friend, Mrs. Dubois, a retired history professor who lived in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac. Mrs. Dubois, now frail but sharp-witted, welcomed Elara with a warm smile, her small house filled with books and antique maps. Elara showed her the locket and the ledger page. Mrs. Dubois. The Ashtons and the Caldwells, she murmured, tracing a finger over a faded map. A bitter land dispute from the early 20th century, involving the displacement of several. Your grandmother, Elara, was very involved. Mrs. Dubois explained that the land, rich in mineral deposits, had been illegally seized from Elara's ancestors by the Caldwells, aided by the powerful Ashton family, who then profited from the mining operations. The family debt wasn't a repayment from the Caldwells, but the trust fund was a fraction of the true value, a hush-money settlement to avoid a public scandal decades later. Your grandmother fought tooth and nail, Mrs. Dubois said, her voice filled with admiration. But the legal system then was stacked against them. She managed to secure a promise of future reparations, but the details were obscured. Just as Elara was about to ask more, a sharp, insistent knock echoed from the front door. Mrs. Dubois looked startled, glancing at the clock. I wasn't expecting anyone, she whispered. Elara felt a chill of foreboding. The knock came again, louder this time, demanding. The insistent knocking jolted Elara and Mrs. Dubois, shattering the quiet warmth of the old professor's study. Elara's heart pounded, a frantic rhythm against her ribs, echoing the ominous thumps at the door. Mrs. Dubois, her kind face now etched with fear, clutched Elara's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Who could that be, dear? I truly wasn't expecting anyone, she whispered, her voice trembling. Elara instinctively moved in front of her, peering cautiously through the narrow gap in the curtains. She saw a tall, impeccably dressed man standing on the porch, his silhouette imposing against the afternoon light. A chill snaked down Elara's spine. This felt less like an unexpected visit and more like an arrival she had been warned about. The man raised his hand to knock again, his movements deliberate, authoritative. Elara's mind raced, recalling her mother's chilling last words. This was it. They had come. Before Elara could even process a plan, Mrs. Dubois, acting on old instinct, moved to open the door, her hand already on the knob. Elara grabbed her arm. Wait, Mrs. Dubois. Don't open it, she urged in a hushed, urgent tone. But it was too late. The door swung inward, revealing Marcus Ashton, his gaze sharp and unwavering as he took in the two women. He offered a polite yet chillingly devoid of warmth smile. Mrs. Dubois, I presume? And you must be Elara Vance, he stated, his voice smooth as polished stone. He didn't wait for an invitation. Stepping over the threshold, his presence immediately dominating the small entryway. My name is Marcus Ashton. We need to discuss the Caldwell estate, and more importantly, the reparations payment. We understand you've been asking questions. Elara felt a surge of defiant anger, refusing to be intimidated. What right do you have to barge in here? She challenged, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. Marcus Ashton chuckled, a dry, humorless sound that sent a shiver down Elara's spine. Right? We have every right. Your mother's leverage, as she called it, has expired. The terms of the original settlement are now void. We merely wish to retrieve what is rightfully ours. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. Elara, her mind reeling, knew she couldn't handle this alone. After Marcus Ashton left, leaving a chillingly vague warning about future consequences, Elara immediately called Serena. You have to meet me, now. He came, Serena. The Ashtons came. Elara's voice was raw with urgency. Serena, after a moment of stunned silence, agreed to meet Elara at a secluded, less conspicuous coffee shop on the outskirts of town. The weight of her mother's warnings now felt crushing, and Elara knew she had misjudged her sister's true understanding of the danger. She needed Serena's full, unvarnished truth. Serena arrived, her usual polished demeanor replaced by a strained, worried frown. "I knew this would happen eventually," Serena confessed, her voice barely a whisper as she slid into the booth opposite Elara. "Mother told me there was a deadline on her leverage, a specific event or time when the Ashtons could legally challenge the settlement. She never told me what it was, only that it was a secret she kept for decades." Elara leaned forward. What was the leverage, Serena? What did Mother hold over them that made them pay? Serena hesitated, glancing around nervously. She said it was proof, something that would expose the Ashtons' true role in the original land theft, something that went beyond simple financial exploitation to deeper, darker secrets. She hid it. Told me she would only reveal its location if something happened to her, or if the Ashtons tried to reclaim their payment. Just as Serena was about to elaborate on the general whereabouts of this hidden proof, the cafe door chimed and Marcus Ashton entered. A cold, knowing smile spread across his face. The chime of the cafe door announced Marcus Ashton's entrance, his presence immediately casting a shadow over the already tense conversation between Elara and Serena. His gaze, sharp and unblinking, fixed on them, a cold, knowing smile playing on his lips. Elara felt a fresh wave of dread wash over her, a premonition of danger confirmed. Serena, usually so composed, visibly flinched, her hand instinctively reaching for Elara's arm under the table. Marcus approached their booth with a slow, deliberate pace, a predator observing his prey. The casual chatter of the cafe suddenly seemed to fade, replaced by the pounding of Elara's heart against her ribs. He paused beside their table, Elara straightened, refusing to cower, even as a chill snaked down her spine. The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken threats and a palpable sense of impending confrontation. Marcus Ashton finally spoke, his voice a low, silken purr that held an undeniable edge. "Well, this saves me the trouble of finding you two separately. Convenient." He gestured to the empty seat opposite them, a silent command rather than a request. Elara met his gaze head-on. "What do you want, Mr. Ashton? We've made it clear we're not intimidated by your tactics." He chuckled, a sound devoid of genuine amusement. "My tactics? My dear, this is merely a courtesy call. Your mother's little insurance policy against us has expired. The trust fund, that meager reparation, was paid under duress. We want it back." Serena gasped. "You can't be serious. That money was legally settled." Marcus leaned forward, his "Legality, my dear Ms. Vance, is often a matter of who controls the narrative. And the leverage your mother held, whatever proof it was, is no longer a concern. We are simply reclaiming our assets." Elara's mind raced, trying to grasp the full implications of Marcus's words. "So you're admitting the trust fund was hush money, not a repayment?" She challenged, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts. Marcus simply smiled, a chilling, indifferent expression. "Call it what you will. The conditions under which it was paid are no longer applicable. We have reason to believe your mother's proof has been destroyed or rendered inconsequential." He then stood, pushing his chair back with a scrape that echoed in the sudden silence. "Consider this a final warning. Return the funds, or we will take more direct measures to secure what is rightfully ours." With that, he turned and strode out of the cafe, leaving Elara and Serena stunned. The weight of his threat hung heavy in the air, a palpable force pressing down on them. Serena finally broke the silence, her voice a hushed whisper. He knows. He knows about the leverage, or at least that Mother had it. But what could have made it inconsequential? After Marcus Ashton left, Elara and Serena remained rooted to their seats, the echoes of his threat reverberating in the suddenly quiet cafe. "He's right," Serena finally whispered, her voice laced with desperation. "Mother always said the leverage had a shelf life, a point beyond which it would lose its power. She never told me what that point was, or what the proof actually was, just that it was hidden somewhere only she knew about." Elara grabbed Serena's hand, her grip firm. "Think, Serena, anything. A cryptic message, a place she loved, a specific item. She must have left us a clue, something more than that letter." Serena closed her. "There was a painting, an old, faded landscape of the family's ancestral lands. She used to stare at it for hours, especially after a visit from one of the Ashtons' lawyers. Elara remembered the painting, gathering dust in the back of their mother's old storage unit. A new surge of adrenaline coursed through her, a fragile thread of hope amidst the dread. They had to get to that storage unit and fast before the Ashtons did. The air in the storage unit was thick with the scent of mildew and forgotten things. Elara and Serena navigated through stacks of boxes, their breath held tight in the dusty quiet. The painting, an unassuming landscape of rolling hills and a lone, gnarled oak, sat propped against a stack of old furniture. It was larger than Elara remembered, its canvas faded, barely visible beneath a layer of grime. They carefully lifted it, the frame surprisingly heavy. Serena ran her fingers along the back, then frowned. "It feels hollow," she murmured, tapping a section of the wooden backing. Elara's heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread, the weight of their mother's secrets pressing down on them. They exchanged a look, a silent agreement to proceed, knowing this was their last chance to uncover the truth. With a small, rusty screwdriver found in a toolbox nearby, Elara carefully pried open the hidden compartment in the painting's frame. Inside, nestled among yellowed silk, weren't just documents, but a small, antique audio cassette player and a cassette, labeled simply, "The Caldwell-Ashton Agreement, 1948. A gasp escaped Serena's lips as Elara gently removed the items. "Mother didn't just write about it," Serena whispered, her voice trembling. "She recorded it." Elara's fingers brushed over the worn plastic of the cassette. This wasn't just proof. This was a voice from the past, an undeniable record of injustice. The implications were staggering, far beyond what they had imagined. This was the leverage, a living testimony that could shatter the Ashtons' carefully constructed legacy. The next day, Elara and Serena sat opposite Marcus Ashton in a sterile, impersonal meeting room at a neutral legal firm. The small cassette player sat on the table between them, a silent but potent weapon. Marcus, initially smug, scoffed at the sight of the antique device. "Another one of your mother's theatrics?" He sneered. Elara met his gaze unflinching. "This is more than theatrics, Mr. Ashton. This is a recording of the original agreement, detailing how your family coerced and bribed officials to dispossess ours, and the subsequent cover-up." She pressed play, and the crackling, aged voices filled the room, clearly outlining the Ashtons' fraudulent acquisition of the land and their historical betrayal. Marcus's face drained of color, his composure finally shattering. This is a fabrication," he stammered, but Serena leaned forward, her voice sharp and clear. "It's not. And now, we want full reparations, not just a hush-money trust fund. And we want a public acknowledgement of your family's wrongdoing." Days turned into weeks, but the Ashtons, faced with irrefutable evidence that could destroy their family's reputation, had no choice but to concede. The original trust fund was not only secured, but significantly augmented, acknowledging the true extent of the historical debt. More importantly, they were forced into a public statement, a carefully worded admission of past transgressions that, to Elara, felt like a victory for her ancestors. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift. Sitting on a park bench bathed in the warm glow of sunset, Elara and Serena finally allowed themselves to truly breathe. "She knew," Elara said softly, looking at a framed photograph of their mother she now carried. "She knew exactly what she was doing, protecting us even after she was gone." Serena reached out, taking Elara's hand. "We did it, Elara, together. This isn't just a trust fund. It's our family's legacy, finally reclaimed." Their estranged past was not forgotten, but a new, stronger bond had been forged, built on shared purpose and a newfound understanding of their mother's enduring love. Thank you for watching The Unspoken Legacy. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more compelling dramas on our channel.